There has been this theme that has been recurring into every school that I work with. So I go into a school, I do my program, so I'll speak to usually each grade, whether it's 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 4 periods. And, in between periods, I have some every once in a while, a student will come up to me, ask a couple of questions. I may visit them in the lunch periods where we can get some more conversations. And especially whenever I go to like a leadership organization. So about a few weeks ago, I was in Arizona doing the Hobie, Arizona keynote, and that's where it really clicked, and I realized I had so many conversations around pretty much the same topic, and this has been happening for a while now. And the conversation is this: students are petrified of making the wrong decision. My program is all about decision making, and it breaks it down to how do we make better decisions, how do we learn from the wrong decisions we made, and all these things. But the students are very scared of making the wrong decision. They're scared of being wrong. And I just thought that was really fascinating because I can't tell you how many times I am wrong in my day-to-day life. It's just like, it's like part of who I am as an adult and a dad and a husband. You're wrong. More seriously, I think it has something to do with age and experience and perspective. I am just about to be 36. I'm not a young gun anymore. I'm not old, but I've been around the block a little bit, and I've had countless bad things happen to me. Many of them that have been the result of me doing something dumb, or just me being not experienced. I have lived so much of feeling that I've made the wrong choice or having made the wrong choice, and I've navigated through that. And I realized that high school students don't have that. They don't have this perspective. So they're so scared about being wrong. So what we're going to do is unpack this a little bit. And first, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this fear that they have. And the problem is that the fear is completely misguided. It's old. It's an old fear, meaning it's part of our human nature. It's part of our DNA. When we are the human species, the Homo sapien over 200,000 years ago, our goal for 99% of that time was to just survive, just make it another day, run away from the lion, try to make sure we get some food so we can, eat, try to keep the species going. That's pretty much about it. And that has shaped our brain, our function of our brain, our bottom base part of our brain, which I don't know the name of yet because I am not a neuroscientist, but that bottom part where it meets the brain stem, I guess. I really don't know what I'm talking about. That is the prehistoric part of our brain, and that's where it has the fight or flight or freeze type of scenarios come out, and that's what keeps us locked and scared. That's when you go up on stage and you have to give a speech. That fear, that dry mouth, that shaky hands, the sweating, that's what that is. And then you ask yourself, why am I scared? It's just family and friends, or it's just students, or it's just coworkers, and I'm just saying words. My life is not in jeopardy. So why am I scared? When students are terrified of making the wrong decisions of what college to go to, or what to major in, or whether or not they should break up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, or whatever that may be, their fear is based in a old prehistoric need to survive. And when you can tell them that right away, they'll be able to finally have a little bit of perspective and say, that makes sense. So logically, they agree. I don't need to be scared about making the wrong decision, but I still am. So we have to kind of shift perspective a little bit more. The next thing we have to do is shift from being wrong and bad, you've made a wrong and bad decision, to learning and try again. This shift is really important because when you are a child, my toddler now is just over 2 years old, and it's an important part of learning where you have to say to the child, no, that's wrong. No, that's not the right letter. No, that's not the right color. No, that's right, whatever it is. And that is a little bit ingrained in us, right? Now, of course, you can package that, which we do in our family, with, wow, that was a great try. That's not correct, but let's try again, right? Of course, but many times you don't get parents that are either, one, an educator, or two, a pediatric professional. So it's fine. It's totally fine. But we've been programmed to know that wrong is bad, and I can't be wrong because that's bad. Because good is right, or right is good for that matter. So we have to realize that we have to teach our students to shift this mindset and say, being wrong is just an opportunity to learn. When you look at a ton of famous people, I mean, the classic one is Thomas Edison, right? He tried 1,000 times to make a light bulb, or 100 times, whatever it was, say 1,000 times to make a light bulb. And the 999th time, he figured out how not to make a light bulb. It's ridiculous, but it's true, right? That's why he was able to go through all those thousands of, or whatever, how many experiments he did. And the same thing with almost every single entrepreneur or big business leader. When you think about these successful entrepreneurs, their first business is usually not the one that they're successful at. So the business that you see is super successful, it is not the one that is the first one they tried. They've went through iterations. So we have to just kind of teach them this and let them know that it's okay to be wrong. Now, the third part of understanding and guiding our students to be okay with messing up a little once in a while is to help them develop the actual skill sets around this. So around trying their best to make, yes, a better decision at the first hand is part of this process. Sometimes it's from a reflection-based situation, which we'll talk about next, but how do we try our best to make as best of a decision the first time around? Well, a lot of times we have to first understand that high school students are, most of them are, almost all of them are going through puberty at this time at one point or another, and they are very impulsive. That's their nature. So when it comes to being able to stop and wait a second before they make a decision, is not always the case. Now, the good news is that most of the decisions that they are fearful of making the wrong decision are more long-term. The college, the major, the test, whatever. But some of the short-term things still are very, very important. For instance, if you know you shouldn't get in a car with somebody who's been drinking, that's a very short microsecond decision, and you better make the right one. So again, how do we go through and make this process? So one, if we can wait and simply just hold on a second before we make that decision and gather as much information as we can, that might be helpful. Like, let's figure out all of our situations. Let's figure out all of our choices in front of us, because maybe we're making a choice or making a decision from a choice that we don't even know we have. Maybe we have other choices available. Or maybe it's two. Maybe it's simply a pros and cons list, and sometimes that helps me the most. Or maybe it's three, which is a decision matrix. Now, this is something, to be honest with you, I never even really did. I've never had that big of a decision where I had to make. And this usually, I think, works better when there is more than one person involved. But a simple decision matrix where you have an X and Y axis and you have different things. Say if you're picking a venue to have your Sweet 16 at, so you would list out all the venues on the top, and then on the other axis you would list out the traits and the things that you want at your Sweet 16 party, whatever that may be. So the last step is, of course, reflecting and learning from our mistakes and teaching our students that it's okay to make bad decisions. Now we just have to learn from it. That's the most important thing. If we don't do this final step and we don't learn from our mistakes, that is where we can find ourselves going down a weird path. So one of the best ways is simply reflecting, like finding some time to reflect and having them sit down and just think about what they did. Like, I know it sounds kind of funny and you're in trouble. Go to your room and think about what you did. But like, that's where that comes from. More tactically, I think is better. We can encourage them to journal. I think that's a really big thing, because once students are able to kind of organize their thoughts on paper, sometimes they unfold things where they didn't even realize they were thinking. The last thing when it comes to reflection and learning is making sure that they're surrounding themselves with positive people that will encourage this. So if you know as a teacher that you're the only one positive person in this kid's life, then I encourage you to go that one extra step and go out of your way, just that one little bit, and to maybe try to check in with that kid and try to make sure that you're retouching that subject and, whether or not they made that decision or not, or how it worked out or whatever it is. Because again, oftentimes they don't have the supports at home. They don't have the support within their friends or whatever it may be. You may be the only person in that kid's life. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you are able to see a little bit about how this is really crucial, and I'm sure you have some examples in your classroom as well. If you like today's episode, then hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell notification to be notified every time I release a new video. And more importantly is if you are interested in actually working with somebody to come into your school and teach some of these skills, some not only decision-making skills, but resiliency and mental health, then reach out to me. I'm going to leave a link in the show notes, and we can talk further about possibly having me come in and present my program to your school. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week on the Upgrade My Classroom podcast.